Old School Bodybuilding Clothing Company. If leg day was yesterday and now you're wondering why toilets are so damn low, you are definitely old school. If you're the only athlete at your gym that knows there's a contest today and it's to see who trains the hardest, you are old school. OSBBC.com for the hardest training athletes.
Welcome back to Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today's guest is an old friend of mine. She's been in 10 Olympias. She has 10 IFBB Pro wins to her resume, and you might be wondering where she's been because she's been missing, and we haven't seen her missing for quite some time. So I got her here today. We're going to talk a little bit about what she's been going through. Of course, the woman I'm talking about is Jen Strobo. How's it going?
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me. It's been a couple of years since I've been on here.
I think starting in like '08, I must have interviewed you like at least 25, 30 times, over the years.
I was trying to like look them all up last night and watch them, and then I started getting sad because I was like, oh, I look so young.
Believe me, I look a lot younger too during those interviews and a lot bigger. But we all get older. It's funny because, one of the stories that really, kind of attracted me to initially interview you was the fact that you were a type 1 diabetic your whole life essentially, and you were so successful competing, in figure and, just moving up the ranks, so to speak, over the, course of 10 years where you were, dominating and winning, pro shows left and right, always doing well at the Olympia. How tough was that? First of all, when you were diagnosed, how old were you?
I was young, like 7, maybe. I battled with it for a long time, and then it was almost like I didn't really need to battle with it, and it was like my body was kind of, there were these little beta cells in my pancreas that were kind of producing a little bit of their own insulin. So I was able to not even have to be insulin dependent for quite some time. And then, so now what they actually call it is adult onset type 1, because it's like it came back. And I wear, a little pod on my arm so I can see my glucose. Right. And, but I rarely use insulin. I use movement, nutrition, everything like that.
Oh, so you don't have the autoimmune form of it. I didn't know that.
What's that? Oh,
Yeah, but which is weird because when you get it, usually when you're a kid, isn't that most of the time that's always type 1, isn't it?
Yeah, and so it was type 1, and then they call this adult onset type 1 because my pancreas doesn't work at all. So the people that are type 2, their pancreas actually does function a little bit. Right. Usually, not everyone, but the majority of most that are type 2, it's because they've kind of brought that on themselves with poor physical activity, poor nutrition, diet,
or bad genetics. Yeah, or bad genetics.
Right.
But so
or genetics. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
So do you do take insulin then?
I do take insulin.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you didn't take
I take a long acting, and then I also have short acting, but I very rarely use my short acting. Wow. I try to use what I'm eating. I use very little bits of it, but I try to use what I'm eating. I use Glycolog by Blackstone Labs, and then I just kind of, if it's a little high in the morning. So you manage
it with a long-acting insulin. You must not eat a lot of carbs in your diet then.
I do eat carbs. It's just timing of them. So I wait until my glucose is a little lower, right, and then I'll have my carbs. So if I pretty much eat the same thing all the time, except on my Sunday fun day. Right. But I like the food that I eat.
Right.
But so at night, my glucose is a lot lower usually. Mm-hmm. But by the time my body's a little exhausted and fatigued and moved around and everything all day. So I have like this giant bagel at night, I have rice and things a few hours before that. So I'll have most of my carbs later in the day.
And you don't have to take any short-acting insulin because of that?
I'll take a little bit. Yeah, okay. Just a couple units. Usually very, very 2 to 3 units at the most.
Wow.
And it depends, because if it's a really low, I won't take it because I'm getting ready to go to bed.
Interesting.
And I don't want to have a low during the night.
Do you think your body maybe still produces a little bit of insulin? It must, I would think, right?
The doctor says no, but sometimes I wonder because you get like a little bit of a high but you can have those beta tumor cells in your pancreas that can produce them very small amount.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you've been managing that since you're a kid. My son's 5 years old. He can't even tie his shoes yet. I can't even imagine him having to take insulin. It's crazy. Was that traumatizing to you to find that out as a young kid?
It's more traumatizing to prick your fingers and toes all the time.
Yeah, no, I know.
They've come a long way in 40 years.
Right.
So.
I'm saying that had to be. How did that influence who you became? From having to micromanage your blood sugars from such a young age.
I feel like it gives you structure,
right?
And you become very rigid and structured. I don't believe that's always a great thing. My rigidity is very strong in my old age. It's like it's my way or no way because of this.
Sure.
But I can eat out. I can do all these things that everybody does, and everybody's like, I don't know how you do it. It's like competitors. They're like, I can't go to the movies. I can't go out with my friends. I'm like, why not? But I still do all those things. It's just like you either eat before, you eat after, you don't eat, what to eat, what to do. But it did make me very structured, a little rigid, but very independent.
Right. But you got to
I am independent
yourself.
to a fault.
Well, you got to be very, you have to be very dependent upon yourself to constantly monitor your blood sugar 24/7, which is no small task. Although it seems to fit very well into the bodybuilding lifestyle because we do everything so neurotically around the clock as bodybuilders that I'm sure you were really, I'm assuming that's how you got attracted to it, right? The whole regimentation of bodybuilding.
It's sort of like it didn't even, everybody's like, how do you do it? How do you do it? It was my very first show when I did it in the end of 2008. And it was like, I don't know, like I always ate well anyway. I was actually very, very tiny and skinny and sickly looking when I started competing. And it was easy. And I guess you're right. It's the rigidity of the bodybuilding competition process as well.
Yeah. Now, when you did start, I remember because I used to interview you were on the smaller side, and I didn't even know, how you would actually do and figure, but you really put a lot of how much muscle did you add from 2008 to when you, I guess, did your last Olympia in 2018?
I went on stage in my very first show at 118 pounds at 5'7".
Yeah, you're tall, yeah.
So stick girl with shoulders and glutes. And I believe my last show I was 142 on stage.
Wow, that's a lot of muscle for a girl, to put on.
All natural, moving through it because of my health.
Do you think the insulin that you take, a lot of people feel like type 1s that I talk to say that the exogenous insulin use over the years definitely has an anabolic effect. Did you notice that?
I believe it does. I've actually done more research on it now in the last few years, but I believe it can have a little bit of an anabolic effect.
Yeah.
It just like you'll see some people, and I think it depends on how much you're using as well.
Right.
Because you'll see some people that just kind of heavily, like kind of use a different sliding scale than they probably should be and using a little bit more as type 1. And you'll see that they're just eating crap and still able to pretty much manage their weight 150%. So it's obviously, we all know it's got a little bit of an anabolic effect, especially considering some of the history going on over the last few years with it.
Yeah. It's funny because the people who use it and who have to take a lot, but who don't exercise get fat from it, right? And then the people who seem to exercise with it, who are type 1s, I noticed, they put muscle on from it, So it definitely has to do with activity level too. It's not just you're not just going to build muscle from insulin,
Right. It definitely has to do with that because you're right. There, when I go to my endocrinologist, I'm people are looking at me like, what is that girl doing here? Are they calling her name? She must be with somebody kind of thing because everyone's sitting there, or at least the majority of them are very overweight.
Yeah. I agree.
And it's just because of lack of physical activity.
What was your the most memorable show that you did that you can when you look back in your career now and say, hey, ooh, that was the best one?
It's so hard because you kind of look back and you got memories of everything. I got into a point where my last few years I was doing back-to-back shows 1 week apart, and for 3 years in a row that I did it, I won both of them.
Right.
So that was so exciting. But I think to me, to place third in the Arnold International, ahead of a girl that won the Olympia come up in September, it was like, wait, I did that, and when they called my name, when they started calling, sixth, fifth, and then fourth, and I was like, wait, did I just not even break the top six? I was standing there. I don't know. And they called my name. I was floored. And so to look at my Arnold trophies and to see all of those and all my Olympia medals, like both of those shows are just so nostalgic for me, and they're just prestigious. So to just have even stood there is so memorable.
Well, it also validates all the hard work you put into it and everything. Now,
it's nice.
You did your last Olympia in 18, and then in 2019 you were diagnosed with leukemia, which I didn't even know that until a mutual friend of ours told us. How did that come about? What were your symptoms that you were experiencing?
Well, it was towards the end of 18 that I noticed that everyone kept saying, like, what are you doing? Are you not eating? You've got an eating disorder. You're losing all this weight. You look so frail.
Right.
All of these things. And I was like, I'm literally eating the same thing I have been eating for years. I'm not changing anything. I'm not doing tons of cardio.
Right.
I don't have time to do that. I love to do cardio in the morning to kind of set my intention for the day, but it's usually a walk or 20 minutes on the stairs, and that's it. It's not like you're going to get frail from that. And usually post show, obviously you kind of start to gain some weight a little bit, not really a lot. I never veered too far off of it because of my diabetes.
Right.
But I just kept losing weight and losing weight and losing weight and getting lighter than stage weight. And then everyone just kept saying something to me, and I noticed my face was looking drawn. And then come April, I moved from a condo to a house, and I started to get these little red bumps on my body. And I thought that it was weird. I thought it was something from the house.
Petechiae,
yeah. So I call the exterminator. I call these people. There's bed bugs in this house.
Got to be someone else's fault, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's something going on because it was a little old 1940s home that I moved into. And so I started calling all these things. And I have some pictures of my body when I went and saw my siblings at our family cabin about 3 weeks later, and they're both nurses. And I just kind of like pulled my pants down, and I was like, look at my lymph nodes. And they were like the size of just like giant rocks. And my brother's face was just, he was mortified. Like he said, you have got to go to the doctor. Yeah. And I was showing him all these bumps, and he's like, it literally looks like you've been eaten alive by mosquitoes.
Right.
So I got back, went and saw a dermatologist. They were like, you need to call an oncologist right now.
Wow. So they knew. But
I called my oncologist. I saw him that day. I got there at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
I didn't get home till almost midnight.
Ugh.
He walked in the room, and I had seen him before because I had cancer when I was 25. I had some uterine cancer.
Oh, okay.
And that was super easy and quick for me. It was, an easy sort of thing. So I don't think about that often, but
what did they have to do? Did they have to remove your uterus?
I had a full hysterectomy.
Oh, okay.
And so I see him every year to 18 months just as like a checkup.
Right.
And we're good friends, and he walked in and he just went, whoa. And he turned around and he walked out of the room.
Ugh, that's not, you never want to see a doctor run out of the room. That's
and I'm
not
like,
a good
wait,
sign.
we're buddies,
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's going on. And I had a hat on because I didn't want anyone to see me because I had these bumps on my face. They were all over my neck. They were everywhere. And he came back in after talking to a bunch of colleagues from Shands, which is like a very well-renowned hospital there in Gainesville that's nearby Orlando. And he started running tests, CT scans, MRIs. I was having all sorts of things, all sorts of blood work done.
Right.
Because he thought I had a form of leukemia, which is literally the final, you've got 2 to 3 weeks and you're gone.
Oh, really? What do you think you had? Like Hodgkin's or something?
No, I forget what it's called, but
multiple
it's like
myeloma or something like that?
It's like a multiple myeloma.
Yeah.
But it's just, I seriously can't remember because I think I might have blocked it.
So what did it turn out? It was just like a chronic lymphocytic leukemia?
It turned out it was just like, like my body was just like, it was God's way of saying, get your butt to the doctor.
Yeah, tell me about it, yeah.
And he's like, I'm just thankful that you did come in. I went through like some horrible bouts of some antibiotics and got that to go away, but then started seeing him, twice a week and figuring out what we needed to do and what was really actually going on.
Right.
And that's when we found out that my red and white blood cells were so low that my bone marrow was just not functioning.
Wow, that's weird. What do you think would cause something that was? Is it a genetic thing? Is it? I mean, is it? What would cause you something to get something like that?
Well, I have talking about leukemia. I had no idea, but after kind of going through everything and talking to my mom about, he's saying it's a blood disorder that's like leukemia. She's like, you know what? I think your mama had leukemia when she died. And I'm like,
oh, great. Yeah, they always give you the history after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and none of us knew that. And it was just one of those random things. We don't really have any history of that sort of thing in our family.
Right.
So, and then he also found out that I have some really bad lymphoma issues going on as well. So it's just kind of like a two-pronged, hit me in over the head kind of situation.
Yeah. Now you did something kind of unconventional. You started some chemo, but then you stopped and you decided to go the naturopathic route. How did you make that decision?
I just decided I was not going to do it. I wasn't, after sitting in that room for 3 hours, looking around and hearing everyone's stories and stuff, I just said, I'm a research dork on everything that goes into my body anyway. And I do. And I mean, I hadn't taken antibiotics in a decade until I had that big bout, but I had to do something. I don't take Tylenol, I don't do any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just started doing tons of research on the natural healing. I met someone who said, oh my gosh, I went to the Gershwin Center in Spain, which that's where they do all natural cancer healing.
Right.
And it's like a 95% success rate. So I started researching their institute and getting information on what they do on a daily basis, which it involves natural vitamin D 3 to 4 hours a week, getting outside in the sunshine, which usually you don't want to do that because of cancer, but this is being forced upon you. It involves juicing heavily for quite some time. You go onto a plant-based diet at first, which I had to do, which was totally fine with me. It didn't bother me. Mm-hmm. And then you also do coffee enemas, which a lot of people are funny about talking about that, but they are very beneficial in detoxing your liver and helping your body just really learn to process good gut biome and create a good atmosphere for healing.
Sure.
So it's just so many of these things, but also they add in extracts and powders like of some Chinese herbs, which I can't even pronounce all the ones I take.
Are they supposed to be good to stimulate your immune system?
It's like a whole orchestra going on at night whenever I'm getting ready for bed and when I get up in the morning.
Is it are they immune stimulating herbs? Is that what they're supposed to be?
They are. Some of them stimulate your immune system to go up. Some of them are just ones you can get offline on Amazon, like the extracts. Some of them like bladder wrack, burdock root, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They're great for cleansing. They have great anti-cancer properties. They're almost like natural antibiotics, I guess you would say.
Got you. Interesting. And
it's a gross little drink, but I do.
I've talked to people before who've told me about coffee enemas. I was always wondering, do you get like a caffeine buzz from the enema when it goes up when you do it through that route?
It depends. So when I've used different brands, I've gotten because I don't really drink a lot of coffee. I don't drink coffee.
Right.
So that's my coffee. That's my coffee buzz for the day every morning, And but you can get a little bit because it does, especially if you're holding it long enough. Yeah. It does go so far into your liver that it ends up in your bloodstream, which is kind of what you want a little bit to detox and pull things out. You're using organic green coffee, but when I've traveled and been like, oh, I definitely am not skipping a day. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. So I would have to use just regular plain black coffee, and you get more of a buzz from that.
Now, and so you do it every day, coffee enema?
I feel like you've taken a stimulant, I guess, like a pre-workout, which I don't take those, but I figure that's kind of the feeling that you've done.
So you do a coffee enema every single day?
I do right now. I had dropped down to where I was only doing it 2 to 3 days a week.
Right.
But with my health and the way it's been, I've been doing it daily. So every morning it's like a whole hour process for me to take all these extracts and vitamins and these things.
You got to get up a little early, in other words,
Yeah, but then my body doesn't want to do that either. So
now, on top of that, compounding everything that you just told us, you got COVID. When did that happen? I
got COVID April 27th, or I started feeling kind of bad the day before.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go get tested. So I did the drive-through at the CVS and swabbing where you're swabbing your own nose and drop it in the thing,
Yeah.
And I would have rather had someone else do it because you're trying to do like all these things 2 days later, which I was so sick by the time 2 days later came. I thought, I haven't had a head cold in so many years. I don't even know what's wrong with me. I couldn't stop coughing and it came back as positive. Ugh. So I did like the 2 weeks of, staying in your house, and which is totally fine with me. I live by myself. I'm always alone. That's fine with me. I was just working online when I was awake, but I was barely able to stay awake. It was like 20 hours of sleeping every day.
Wow.
But and then I was able to kind of leave the house, but just still had no energy. I see my doctor now and I still have side effects of it. So it's been 6 weeks now, 8 weeks, something like that. And he said I will probably have some of the effects of it for 3 to 6 months. Brain fog, confusion, exhaustion. My heart is inflamed and my lungs are inflamed.
So. Where do you think you picked it up?
Well, I work for Blackstone Labs down here. I'm online clients as well with nutrition and lifestyle and competition, but I also came in and am an executive assistant at Blackstone.
Oh, cool.
Managing a lot of different tasks there. Mm-hmm. And a guy there just said he wasn't feeling that great and he had gone to the hospital that week. Ugh, everyone else seemed to have like this stomach bug, which never got to me.
Right.
But that's what made me, I was like, I just kind of like didn't feel good. I kind of was coughing a little bit. And that's what made me, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go get checked. I've managed to make it this whole year without getting COVID. And I'm just going to go get checked because something just doesn't seem right. So I'm sure that's where I got it, but you can get it from a gas pump. You can get it from,
of course, I know. Yeah, but
touching the cereal box at the grocery store.
I don't think you can, but they say you can. Will you get the vaccine now, just to make sure you don't get it again?
I can't right now. You have to wait a full 90 days.
Oh, okay.
So
probably who knows? Who knows if it even help? They say if you have it once, if you get COVID and you only need 1 dose of vaccine, really, to keep yourself.
Yeah, I hadn't really planned on getting the vaccine.
I wasn't.
Kind of funny about that stuff, but my doctor is kind of like, you know what? I would really rather you do that because you got sicker from all your blood cells and all your blood work just went tanked, during COVID. And he's kind of really pushing me to do it.
Now, what's the process now that you have the blood disorder? Your levels kind of dipped down, but it could have been obviously due to COVID. How do they actually classify you as, quote, in remission or cured? I mean, is there actually a time when they'll actually say that, or?
Yeah, they will. Actually, when my red blood cells get back to a normal level.
Okay.
So I just have to wait for that. The white blood cells can be a little lower. Obviously, you still want them to be higher, and you want them to really increase when you get sick, which they did not when I had COVID, which you would think, most people have an infection. That's how they can tell when your white blood cells are off the chart because they're trying to, kill that off. But I have to wait until my red blood cells come back up. So I just had blood work done actually this morning.
Right.
And I had blood work done 7 days ago, and so we'll just wait and see when everything comes back and see where to go.
I thought with leukemia, usually you have high white blood cell count. Usually it's they're immature white blood cells that don't really function well. But I thought you have a higher amount of that.
I actually have like nothing.
That's weird. Yeah, you have like a weird.
Yeah, they're like, it's ridiculous. It's like non-existent almost.
Mm-hmm. Now, knowing the kind of person that you are and how structured you are and how goal-oriented you are, I got to ask you this, even though if it might not be in the near future, do you see yourself competing again at some point?
I don't think so. A lot of people go, you could compete right now. And I'm like, well, no, I'm on this cancer diet. I mean, I still pig out on Sunday fun day and stuff like that. Yeah. But, I just eat very structured to keep my insulin levels correct, my glucose levels right.
Right.
But I don't think so. I think I'd rather go out, you just kind of go out while you're on top.
I agree, but yeah.
And there's nothing to prove on this stage. I won 10 pro shows, which I'm just thankful that I had that opportunity to compete even on the IFBB stage. And I got to grace the stage of the Olympia and the Arnold and Australia and India and all these places, and Canada, like everywhere. And I just don't think that there's any reason for me to get back on stage and put the heels back on.
Right. What do you see as like your future? Everyone has their like, what am I going to do next type of thing, my future goal, like things I want to do in the future. Where do you see yourself going? You want to stay in the sport and just kind of be like you do the coaching, and I know you work for Blackstone now. Is that where you want to see, or do you see yourself doing something else?
I love doing the coaching with through nutrition, teaching people how to heal their bodies through nutrition and vitamins,
Right.
And just live a healthy, sustainable life. I call it like lifelong sustainable, to where you don't feel like you're on a depletion and a bulking and a this and a that kind of nutrition. Like that's not good for your mentality long term, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
Especially for women. Men deal with that a little bit better. But I see myself, right now, short term, my goal for myself would be to kind of get my body back to just feeling good, because a lot of people go, well, you still look great out on the outside.
Right.
And I'm like very appreciative of them saying that. That makes me feel good. But at the end of the day, I could come home and I feel miserable, and every muscle is just aching, and just I've got edema and a headache and nausea. It's just these random things. And I don't think that they fully understand that.
Yeah.
Or in the gym, I may be lifting some weight and they think I look great lifting that weight. And I'm thinking, well, I used to be able to lift twice this much.
Yeah,
do I ever think I need to do that much again? No, but I would love to see my physique be at a place where I'm personally happy, because I think those of us that are successful on the stage, we've always challenged ourselves to be personally happy with something,
Sure.
So I want to do that, but really just focusing on nutrition, focusing on every day, just being a better person somewhere and helping others. That's just always been my goal. Right. And that's still my goal through Blackstone Labs and through my online coaching.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that work
help
with
others and let them see their true potential.
Sure. What do you think of this new wellness division that they got out there?
I think it's great. I mean, I never had legs were always my problem.
Right.
So I would never be a wellness competitor. I wish I could, because I think that that's a beautiful look. I love that they're still not like so overpowering to where, you see some women who have no upper body at all. And then it's just legs. Yeah. I love that the wellness division is still kind of balanced. I like to call it kind of like a 60-40. Yeah. Kind of balance. I think it's great though, because so many women that wanted to compete would just have to run and diet and do all these things. And it was going against their natural body genetics. Yeah. And I believe they didn't have good experiences on the stage. And I think the whole point of the NPC and the IFBB, I've always wanted someone to walk away from that stage and find something that they could use that was fun and enjoyable to them, that they can use in the rest of their life. Right. And if you're just miserable every moment of it, then it's not. So I think that the wellness division has opened up the world of competing for a lot of women.
Sure. Well, I got to just say you're a very brave woman, and you've been through an awful lot in your life, and it's amazing. And it just goes to show you that if you're focused enough and you're organized and you do your research and you have a positive attitude, that you can kind of get through anything. And you've proved that through your career. You've achieved probably more in the physique world than I think anyone ever would have predicted. And that's a testament to work ethic. And I always tell people that. I mean, we all have a genetic predisposition, but a lot of people never really realize their true potential because they're not willing to do the work. And, you've done the work not just on the stage, but outside, through all the different illnesses you've had, your diabetes, and you've overcome all these obstacles. And that's what a real role model is, I believe, someone who can have these. I always ask myself sometimes, why do I have these weird things that happen to me? And then I say, you know what? It's to show people that you can get through these things if you're determined enough, if you do your research and educate yourself enough, and you just don't give up, and that's the key.
You just said you just took the words right out of my mouth. I think for me, what motivates me and drives me is, at the end of the day, I want someone to be able to say, I didn't give up because of you. Right. And see, I just got like little tingles.
Yeah, I got tingles too.
Because
you're right.
I'm not going to give up. Every day there's a reason why I'm on God's wake up list. And is it to inspire someone, motivate someone, just drive someone, push them a little harder, or for them to see like, oh, wait, I could do something like that, or I could try that. You know, because most days I wake up and I don't feel great, but I set my intention. Today's going to be a good day in some way, and I'm going to get my butt out of this bed, and I'm going to try no matter what. If I've got to come home at 3:00 and lay on the couch and take a 2-hour nap, then I'm going to have to do that. But I'm going to do whatever I can physically, emotionally, mentally, all of that in the meantime.
Yeah. Amen to that. Well, keep us updated, Jen. You know, your story is ongoing, and I love to hear that, you know, you're doing well. And
always interesting.
Every time I interview you, always have a fun story. I remember the first time I interviewed her, she's like, I have to eat pancakes 3 days in a row because I can't keep my weight up for the stage. I'm like, oh, you got real big problems. Believe me, I said, don't tell any other women that. I said, don't want to kill you. I said,
oh, I hate you. I hate that. I hate this. I hate this. And I'm like,
no women have to do that, believe me. She's the only one. And then what they didn't know was that not only do you have to eat pancakes, you got to now manage your blood sugar because of the pancakes, you know?
That's what they didn't know. And we never knew, like, are the pancakes going to backfire?
Right. Sure.
And cause me to drop really low and cause me to have chronic GI issues or anything like that? Or is it going to work? Because that's the crapshoot you have with diabetes. Is it going to work this time or not? Because it could be different every single time you take a step on that stage.
Absolutely. Well, good luck. Keep us updated. We're all praying for you.
It's so good to speak to you, and I hope
I love talking to you.
Good.
It was an inspiration doing this interview, and I appreciate you joining us today.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
All right, the great Jen Strobo. We'll all say a prayer for her. For now, though, we are out of time. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time.